Hey G, let's start the show.
Welcome to Questions and Alan. Here's the dude with the do, Alan.
Hey there, I'm Alan Furstenberg and I'm here to answer your questions about designing and developing for the Google Assistant. So, what critical question do we have today, G?
People always ask, in Dialogflow, how do I move from one intent to another?
So, here's the short answer. We don't. Again, usually we don't intentionally move from one intent to another programmatically. And that's because intents are what the user says, and they're not a state machine. So don't think of intents as, I'm currently in this intent, and I'm going to move to this other intent, like we deal with when we're working with the state machine. Intents represent what a user says. So as we're working on things, intents should be capturing what the user says and then doing something with them. Got that?
If intents aren't a state machine, how do we know when user statements are valid during a conversation flow?
Okay, so in general, we're going to be using something called context to keep track of what that state is. So rather than trying to use an intent to store state, you're going to be changing what the context, the active and available contexts are at that time. Input context can then be used to limit exactly which intents are going to be valid at any given point. So we can say, for example, that certain intents will require this input context to be valid, and only those intents will then be fired, or those have the biggest chance of being fired, and then those that don't have any input context at all may be fired. Try to avoid follow-up intents. They seem like a good solution to things, but usually what we see a lot of people then saying is, okay, I've got this long string of follow-up intents. How do I then get back into the middle of it? And that's a lot harder to do. Instead, manage the intents yourself and manage the input contexts that are available for each one. That's going to make things a lot easier in the long run.
You said we usually don't change intents. When do we?
Yeah, so occasionally, one of the things that you might want to do is have your webhook trigger an event. Now, that's not triggering an intent directly, but when it fires an event, any intent, got that? Event, intent. Any intent that has that event registered may be fired. So one way that we can forcibly move into an intent is by generating the event that will move into it. Now, honestly, there aren't a lot of reasons for you to do this. Most of the time I see this done when we have responses and we've built those responses into the intent itself, but you shouldn't really be doing that anyway. You should be generating responses as part of your webhook directly. So there's almost never any good reason to forcibly transition into an intent by using the event system. Does all that make sense? I hope it does. So G, where can they learn more?
Dialogflow docs are at cloud.google.com/dialogflow/docs. Say goodnight, Alan.
Good night, Alan.